Hey, this is Michael from NCY store. We got the battery properly charged. What we recommended to do was actually disconnect it, and you're going to go ahead and do a good charge with the USB on there. Have it charged. Normally, if it's really completely empty, it might take about an hour to actually fully charge it before it becomes a solid green indicator on your Sharia charger battery. Also, we changed the LED lights on this one, but we want to save our crank juice just as much as possible, because I remember us playing around with the LED lights and so forth before we actually start cranking the scooter. And we want to make sure this time when we put it in there, this battery's just been put on pretty much back in the terminal. We haven't even keyed it in yet. So we want to focus on pretty much where it says the fuel gauge right there. Next to it, it's going to be the battery meter right here. And we want to make sure that's above the 12. And that's going to give us enough power to crank over the engine. But another thing is also, I want to address the issue like we were experiencing the motor oil actually flooding back out. The reason why is, you remember the crankcase vent I had earlier? I closed it up and I had it looped all the way back around, and it came back to this ventilation crank one-way pass up to the fuel tank, which is fine. But the fuel tank, it doesn't really need that much ventilation because we have an open fuel cap. But what was concerned was that the ventilation that allows a little bit back air pressure to release out, when it couldn't release out, when the wheels are turning around, it still moves the pistons inside the crankcase, even though the engine has never been turned over or cranked. What it does is create that air, and that's what made it, every time we took out the power supply, the starter, it actually created a little, like a compression air, like poof. And the same thing with actually causing the oil to actually even like shoot upstream. You can see here, this is more of an incline upstream against gravity just to come up here. So if we leave it open right now, it'll probably still, look, if you can see it right now, I'll check it. And I can show you what I'm talking about. See, it's already there all the way up here. And again, remember, we started out with less than a quart, and most of the time the whole engine can take a quart and it'll still show full on the dipstick. It doesn't overflow like that, so we didn't put more than a quart. So what I'm thinking of doing now is we're going to go ahead and you know, use the idea of creating a filter. We're going to tee it off here, so we're going to open this right here so the crank ventilation can actually pass air out, because once it goes into the fuel tank, air can't escape out like fumes can't escape out. So we're going to go and keep this line open right here. So we're going to go and pull that hose out, and we're just going to leave this hanging for right now. And eventually what we're going to do is create a T that they'll meet, and then they'll also feed back. And I'm going to have to probably, if I can't get on the side of my nice cone K&N air filter, I'm going to have to probably drill a little hole here and actually feed the wires in here. So all the fumes from the tank reserve, as well as the positive crankcase ventilation fumes, will be able to be recycled back into the air filter, which funnels back into the carburetor and mixes properly. So that's the thing we're gonna actually, I want to address with you guys, is mainly is make sure you guys keep the crankcase ventilation for the valves open, so you won't have that much back pressure to actually, you know, spurge your oil out. So let's check out the oil now. So we just kind of opened that one-way ventilation, and it's still gonna be on the edge a little bit, but you can see here is receding a little bit down further. Before it was really high up there. See that? Look at that. Isn't that amazing? It just actually cleared itself up almost like nothing. Look, I could put my stick in there. Before it was like right here on the edge, right? So that's what causes that. Just wanted you to know. So the crankcase ventilation, you can see how really good of a sealed the crankcase is. I mean, it's really airtight. The spark plug is sealed. The only thing that gets oil pretty much is your cylinder head, where the rocker arms and cylinder is, and also where your cylinder behind it, not in front of it. So pretty much where the pistons should actually be clean of oil. There might be a little bit of residue